Yeah, welcome to the Health Nugget. Sorry for the little interruption. The mail didn't go through as I thought it would. Today we are going to talk about folate and folic acid. And folate comes from the Latin word for leaf. And it was also named vitamin B9. It was first discovered in 1941. It was found out that it is needed in rapidly developing tissues, like for instance in the bone marrow. And if you have too little folate, you can run into an anemia. But the most devastating consequence of folate deficiency was the development of neural tube defects. That means that in the first 3 weeks of the pregnancy, the neural tube of the embryo is formed, and if the tube doesn't close properly, there will be a lifelong deficit that can leave these little children semi-paralyzed, or it can also result in severe brain abnormalities. And this was found out not immediately in 1948, but in the years thereafter. And in 1998, the US health authorities decided to fortify foods with folic acid. And the result, and the good result, was that within a couple of years, the number of neural tube defects decreased. That is the positive side of the story. Here you see a molecule, the molecule of folic acid, and if you have the third part there in brackets where it says polyglutamate, if you have monoglutamate, then it is folic acid. Folic acid actually does not occur in nature. It only occurs as polyglutamates. And the reason why folic acid is used is because folic acid is stable. It has a long shelf life and can be maintained ad libitum. And it is synthesized by the tons today, because every product that is not a whole grain or whole wheat product needs to be so-called fortified with folic acid. Now, when folic acid, and that you see at the top left here in the blue circle, enters the human organism, it needs to run twice by the same enzyme. You see the enzyme name there is the same. So the enzyme has to do one step, and then the same enzyme has to do a second step in order to convert it into that folate form that is usable for us as humans. And the steps that follow thereafter are also partially physiological, utilized in the body. Now, the thing that was discovered about 10 years later was that if you have too much folic acid, and the body's capability of converting folic acid into the folate that is used in our bodies, that enzyme system can be overrun. It can be flattened. It cannot do its job anymore. It's saturated. And when unmetabolized folic acid goes into the system, it starts to have a counterproductive effect in that it reduces our killer cell toxicity, the potency of killer cells that are the innate, that are part of the innate immune system, and that, for instance, controls cancer cells. It reduces this by 23%. And then the adaptive immune system, where you have immune cells interacting with viruses, bacteria, with cancer cells, is also compromised by the production of a metabolite of the folic acid, which effectively disarms the adaptive immune system's surveillance capacity. When they looked at large population studies, this is what they found. In people who have a very high folic acid supplementation, prostate cancer is 160% increased. The reverse is true for natural folates. Colorectal adenomas are increased, and colon cancer is increased by 160 to 190%, which is pretty disastrous. Cardiovascular health is compromised in 44%, and all-cause mortality rises under folic acid supplementation, so it's not the best idea. And the thing that happens here is too much of a good thing turns into the opposite. It creates an opposite effect. And just get this right. If somebody lives off junk food, then this might be able to help him get over the negative effects of him or her not eating leafy vegetables and lentils and other stuff, food items that contain a lot of folate, but it poses a certain danger, and that is all that I want to say today. Enriched grain consumption is essentially universal in American diet, because there's hardly anything that is made of whole grain anymore. Only 16% of total US grain intake is whole grain, meaning 84% of all grain consumed is refined and legally mandated to be fortified with synthetic folic acid. In practical terms, nearly the whole American populations are consuming synthetic folic acid daily through their food, and our potluck will be no different. On top of this, a third of Americans dose themselves with a multivitamin on a daily basis because they think it is something good, and there might be some positive aspects to it. Unfortunately, the supplemental vitamin use rises with age. The older the people are, the more likely they are to take supplements because they feel the deficits of aging creeping up to them. And this places the elderly population potentially in harm's way. So what do? Replace enriched white bread, switch to 100% whole grain bread that lists whole wheat flour as the only grain and contains no folic acid or enriched flour in the ingredient panel. Look for brands like One Mighty Millstone, Dave's Killer Bread, Food for Life, Ezekiel 4 verse 9. You can also get our Clark's Bakery bread here. And just take this little piece of information. When the nutrition label does not say 100% whole wheat or 100% whole grain, it will be fortified with folic acid. Replace white pasta, switch to whole grain or legume-based pasta, eat natural folate. Nature is full of folates. There is no scarcity of folates. If you eat a plant-based diet, you will be perfectly fine. And then the next thing is check the vitamins that you take. Sometimes in the vitamins alone you have 400, 600, sometimes 1,000 micrograms of folate per tablet. That is folic acid, not folate.
There are some vitamins that have folate, stabilized folate.
That is true. Now I looked at, after I'd read this, I looked here at home-style oat bread, and you can see here that it has folate, and I thought that was really great. The first bread that I came across, I haven't looked at all breads, it contains folate, and that would be the equivalent of 40 milligrams folic acid. It says DFE, if you can read it in the red circle there. That means dietary folic acid equivalent. So that means that the folates in nature do not come in one compound. It's not one substance. There are a couple of substances, as I showed you. Folic acid is one substance, and they compare this to folic acid. Folic acid is absorbed into the body at a certain rate, whereas the normal folates only make about 50 to 60% of that rate, so less is absorbed. But if you eat a plant-based diet, you will receive more than enough. Now, from Pepperidge Farm, the same bread company, the whole grain oatmeal bread, there you see, they would not have been obliged to put folic acid in there, but they put 10 micrograms of folate, which is only 2% of dietary folate equivalent, in it nonetheless. So this is a whole grain product. Shredded wheat, for instance, that you can buy. When you look at the list here, you will not find any folate in this, because it is a whole, as you read there on the top, 100% whole grain. All right, so here you have a list of, and you can go online and look at this. In liver, you find huge, pretty large amounts of folic acid. It is because in the liver, folic acid is produced. That is where you find the enzyme systems. As with all vitamin B components are water soluble, so do not keep your veggies and your fruit eternally in water, because you will lose some folate. It is also in a certain extent UV dependent, and I was surprised to read that white people can have their folate reduced by intense sun exposure. So eat your veggies, especially in summer when they are there. In winter, they are not there. And a final thought is, God said, behold, I've given you every herb bearing seed. He has given us the grains, and we as clever humans, when we prepare the flour, we take away the bran and we take away the germ where folic acid is found. And that is obviously not the best idea. And for us as vegetarians, vegans, there is one item that we use in our kitchen that is probably the star of the stars. There, to my knowledge, there is not a product that contains more folate than yeast flakes. It contains 2,500 micrograms per 100 grams, which is through the roof. And therefore, use that in your kitchen, and you will. And it, by the way, it is also, yeast flakes are also the compound that bring you the most selenium, more than any other nutrient that you can take up. that would be it for today. Do you have any questions? Is there anything you didn't understand that I didn't bring across as well as I should have? So try and read the labels, look for folic acid, try to educate yourself where folic acid is found, and do not go into these high pharmacological levels because they will potentially damage you. I wish you good luck at potluck. Thank you very much.